9800X3D is launched and nobody can get their hands on it. The new M4 Max are here and by golly, they look very good, and Nvidia is pulling off some shenanigans again. Let's get into the hot news, everybody. I'm your Brett host. We're gonna be going over the hottest tech news that I can find on the internet while you enjoy your breakfast this Friday, November 8th, 2024. We're gonna start off today talking about the 9800X3D release that happened yesterday. They went available for sale here in the US as well as abroad. Here in the States, it was available at $480 at plenty of different retailers, but it doesn't look like the stock was very good. As soon as I went to go order them on Newegg, they were completely out of stock. This is something that a lot of people noticed both in the US as well as across the pond in Germany. They sold out within 30 minutes, and within minutes of that happening, they were up on eBay for roughly $1,000. Newegg tweeting out, waking up to see the bloodbath for the 9800X3Ds like. Sad that not everyone who wanted was able to get one, but we have another shipment arriving soon and we'll restock ASAP. And you can just see that, yes, the scalpers took advantage of this moment to make that happen. I personally was able to back order a couple from B&H before they went out of stock completely. It is not shipping out anytime soon as far as I'm aware, but that's my 9800X3D situation. A lot of you have already left that in the comments yesterday, but curious today as well. Did you get a 9800X3D? You're going to be waiting. Let me know your situation down below in the comments. I think one of the things that's going on is that also the 7800X3D is out of stock. I saw its Newegg price was roughly like $580, which obviously doesn't work in the competitive landscape. So I can understand why people would get the 9800X3D because it's an even better value than the 7800X3D is at the moment, because that is also out of stock. But while you're potentially thinking about upgrading your PC, maybe think about how to protect it as well.
As someone who spends a lot of my days online, I know how important security is. Thankfully, today's sponsor, Bitdefender, has you covered with their Total Security. Bitdefender Total Security is a leader in the cybersecurity space, being a favorite amongst professionals. Earning Product of the Year 2023 from AV Comparatives and Editor's Choice from PC Mag in 2022, Bitdefender is committed to defending users from cyber attacks across the globe. Bitdefender's Total Security offers threat protection against malware, spyware, and adware across 5 of your devices, even if you have varying operating systems. Total Security works the same across Windows, Mac, Android, and iOS, while also not slowing down your system's performance. Thanks to their multi-layered protection system, Bitdefender can react instantly to online threats that could compromise your system. It can even detect when you're playing games, watching movies, or working, and pauses unnecessary requests and halts unimportant background activities to let your system give you the performance you need when you need it most. Bitdefender Total Security also includes an advisor to help you know your security level, your risks, and how to manage them based on your needs and usage patterns. Bitdefender Autopilot is built into your security and is designed to help you look after your system. You also have access to additional levels of security, such as security options for your microphone and webcam to alert you when apps and web pages attempt to access those devices, or Bitdefender's anti-tracker extension that gives you insight into which sites are collecting certain bits of information from your system. Bitdefender is an amazing way for you to manage your information and security online. Take control of your system today and check out Bitdefender Total Security via the link in the description below. Lastly, if you're watching this in November, also check out Bitdefender's Black Friday offerings. Huge thank you to Bitdefender for sponsoring today's video.
Well, not only did the 9800X3Ds go on sale yesterday, we also got details about their overclocking potential, liquid nitrogen overclocking indeed. 6.9 gigahertz appears to be possible in various different video games. ASUS putting out a video about how they got it to perform in various different video games, and they found that at 6.9 gigahertz, you could get 1400 FPS in Counter-Strike. You could get a lot of FPS in Valorant. You can make this thing really, really move. 6.75 gigahertz in Cinebench R23, but while the 6.9 gigahertz is very nice and very good by ASUS, it is not the world record. MSI tweeting out that they achieved 7.241 gigahertz on the 9800X3D at 1.969 volts. But one of the things to note with the whole AMD overclocking, the thing that ASUS did while they were playing games, is that they were able to get over 1000 FPS, as you can see, at 105 watts of total power consumption. I don't even want to talk about how much power Intel CPUs draw when they're being liquid nitrogen cooled. I don't want to have that conversation at all. Instead, I want to converse about the upcoming X3D chip of the 9950 X3D, because that's being found in some benchmarks, at least in Factorio Box, which is a benchmark for the popular engineers video game of Factorio, and it appears like it beats the 9800 X3D and essentially everything else else, but the Factorio benchmark isn't actually all that reliable. The 5800X3D beats the 7800X3D, even though that's not the way it works in the game for the most part, but it does look like the 9950X3D is going to be good. But while we're staying on the AMD train, let's also talk about their mobile chips. The Ryzen AI 9 Strix Point mobile handhelds are finally launching. We now have pricing details on the One X Player Strix Point handheld, and it is not cheap. This is going along with reports that AMD is potentially charging double for the AI 9 Strix Point chips than they were for the 8840 U's and HS's that were out there. And so this One X Fly F1 Pro appears to be a very good handheld, and in case you get in on the pre-order, if you're one of the very first to order it, you get a little worldwide Pioneer Gamers medal attached with it. But starting at the AI 9 365 with 32 gigs of RAM and a 1TB SSD, it's going to cost $1099, which is several $100s more than the ROG Ally X. And then the highest end version of the AI 9 HX 370 comes with 64 gigabytes of RAM and a 2TB SSD, goes for $1699. It does have a full length M.2 slot, so you can upgrade the storage later on in case you want to. But this also has a very good screen, 1080p OLED, 800 nit brightness, 144 hertz. It appears like it's going to be a very comprehensive handheld, probably one of the fastest out on the market for the time being. $1099 is a hard price to swallow, but if you want the fastest gaming handheld for Windows out on the market, this looks like it's going to be it until other companies like, I think Minis Forum said that they might be coming out with one, as well as GPD said that they might be coming out with one. Probably we're going to get an ROG Ally refresh probably sometime near Computex next year. But Apple refreshed mostly their entire Mac lineup. We got the Mac Mini, iMac, and MacBook Pros coming in with the new M4 lineup of chips, and the reviews dropped yesterday. I'm personally anticipating receiving my brand new M4 Max MacBook Pro for all of my work that I'm doing here. We're also going to be switching to a Mac Mini for some of my work at the office as well. And the reviews are essentially what Apple said, which is that this is a very fast CPU generation at very compelling price points if you don't upgrade the storage, if you don't upgrade the RAM. Thankfully, all of them start at 16 gigabytes of RAM, but the M4 iMac getting reviewed well. The Mac Mini at $599 is just such a crazy deal with 16 gigs of RAM. The M4 is one of the fastest single core chips that's out on the market, has enough cooling to maintain its performance in long workloads. You're getting 3 Thunderbolt ports. It delivers a lot of value at $599. If you have a student email address, you can knock that down to $499. It's one of the best values in terms of just a productivity machine that's out on the market right now. And the MacBook Pros appear to be very fast, the M4 Max being very competitive, the M4 Pro appearing to be a better bang for buck for just getting a lot of performance while you're on the go. This appears to be everything Apple tried to sell it to be during their event last week where they talked about it. I'm very excited to get my new setup going. I know this doesn't necessarily intrigue a lot of enthusiast gamers, but we're keeping an eye on it. I saw Matt Moniz's review on the M4 Max, and he tested several different video games with that new chip, and it appears to be at least competent for playing a wide variety of games. There's still the need to have different support go on for the ARM aspect of it, but there is more support than you would think. And there's, I mean, you can get 150 FPS in Shadow of the Tomb Raider, which is an old game. You know, it's not necessarily going to be the cream of the crop proving point for the fact that these are gaming laptops, but it does show that it is quite competent outside of just being a workhorse laptop that gives you the same performance whether you're plugged in or otherwise. But let's see if Reece is plugged in on the deals. Let's see what numbers and monies he can save you today.
Yo, welcome back to UFD Deals, bringing the hottest tech deals on the internet. And I've got a couple of them to start your weekend off right. So first up, we have this Epo Maker and Leobog collab with their HI75 board, which is a 75% wired hot swappable gasket mount mechanical keyboard going for only $49.99, making it $50 off. At $100, I feel like this is one of the best pickups of mechanical keyboards right now. So at $50, it is a no-brainer. I actually picked up one myself while I was in America. But then another thing I can absolutely get behind is this KYY 15.6-inch 1080p USB-C portable monitor, which is going for $59.99 with the coupon applied, making it $70 off. And then last, we have the Shure SM7B dynamic XLR microphone going for only $359.99, making it $40 off the usual price of $399. Don't let them fool you with that $499 nonsense. But I just picked up one myself. You can see it and hear it right here. So in case you need a little bit of convincing, this is a legendary microphone phone for a good reason. And I have to say I'm a little bit sad seeing this price knowing what I just paid for it in South Africa. And while you guys can enjoy the deals in my stead, you can find more of them linked in the video description down below. But until next time, I'm handing off back to Brett for the rest of your hot news. Cheers.
Well, Reece, it appears that some people who bought the 13th and 14th gen series CPUs from Intel think they got a bad deal. And in fact, one user is actually suing Intel and trying to start a class action lawsuit against them for the Raptor Lake instability issues that happened. So this CPU was purchased, the 13700K, in January of 2023, and the lawsuit alleges that Intel knew that these things were deficient when they were actually selling them, and they just swept that all under the rug so that they wouldn't have to deal with it in the future, and that the offer of Intel to replace the CPU is simply not good enough, so they're seeking additional damages, treble damages, statutory damages, and punitive damages, restitution, disgorgement, and an order awarding the plaintiff and all the other class members damages in an amount to be determined at trial. Obviously, I don't know how this is going to play out in a court of law. My personal opinion is that Intel probably wasn't fully aware of the performance issues and the instability back in January of last year, but I could potentially be wrong on that matter. We'll see how this class action lawsuit plays out in court, but we'll also have to see how their GPUs play out in the real world. And according to one leaker, sooner rather than later, Golden Pig announcing that we should be able to see the Battlemage desktop discrete GPUs coming out next month, which would be before AMD's announcement that we're expecting at CES. There were recent rumors that Nvidia's new Battlemage GPUs would be announced soon, so that could be before the end of 2024. There was a previous rumor that Battlemage, Intel's next-gen discrete GPUs, could potentially be out before Black Friday. I'm not sure if that's actually going to happen, but there's more indication that we might get announcements of GPUs later on this year before CES, which I'm here for. I would like to see. But what I don't like to see is the nonsense that Nvidia is pulling off with GeForce Now. This might not apply to a lot of people who have their own gaming PCs, but does show the brashness that Nvidia thinks that they have when it comes to charging their customers in a way that I personally don't agree with. So GeForce Now has been announced that in 2025, it's going to start getting a 100-hour limit per month for their users. And that applies across the board. It doesn't just apply to people who are using it for free. It also applies to their performance tier, which gives you 1440p streaming, and their ultimate tier, which gives you a 4080 class GPU for 4K streaming or 1080p 240 FPS. So this is an additional penalty on people who are trying to use GeForce Now. The free version allows you to only get 1 hour sessions, and you have the longest queue times. Performance allows you to get up to 6 hour sessions, and short queue times. Ultimate gives you 8 hour sessions, gives you the advantage of having one of the fastest GPUs and the shortest queue times, but that's at $0 a month, $10 a month ad-free, and $20 a month ad-free. But now all of those will have a 100-hour limit per month on the amount of video games that you're allowed to play using GeForce Now. And in case you want to go above that, you want to get more time, well, then you actually have to pay for it. So it's an additional $3 on the performance tier for 15 additional hours, or it's $6 for an additional 15 hours on the ultimate tier. So they're charging you more to use the higher class GPU to get that extended time of 115 hours, whereas 115 hours on the performance tier would just be $3 more as opposed to the 6. Now, Nvidia is saying that this only applies to 6% of users and that 94% of their players would be unaffected by this entire issue. And that the reason that they're doing this is to make it so that prices can be stable and that they can lock pricing for the foreseeable future, and that 100-hour limit is there for people who are playing extensively. But for people who use GeForce Now as their primary method for gaming, especially if they're traveling for work and they have to bring their work device of like a MacBook Air or something like that, GeForce Now can be actually pretty robust as a gaming solution. And the fact that you're paying them $20 a month and you cannot consume as much as you want just appears to be very frustrating, at least to me, and how I'm observing this situation. I think that the fact that it's not already rolled into the pricing is just another move by Nvidia to continue to charge their customers more and more. I mean, Nvidia's making so much money. They have so much profit. They are making an insane amount of money right now, and then they're gonna be nickel and diming the people who actually are paying them the least. But that's how you get to be the #1 most valuable company. It's not by giving things out for free, that's for sure. But as a consumer of Nvidia products, I disagree with this situation. Let me know what you think of it down below in the comments while I review your comments from yesterday's episode of Hot News. Over on Floatplane, we got Dr. Love saying, "It sounds great over here. We'll need more data to know for sure." I think you're talking about the 9800X3D. You might be talking about the new set. We did change the microphone situation up a little bit today, so it's gonna sound a little different than yesterday. We're still working on the background situation. I'm not quite happy with the separation of myself in the background, so we're gonna be working on lighting changes in the future in case you care about that at all. But over on YouTube, Shadow Lemon saying, "I wish AMD did as well as they do with their Radeon cards as their Ryzen CPUs." One would argue that they kinda do. The problem is Nvidia's not dropping the ball like Intel's dropping the ball in terms of competition. If Intel was consistently delivering better value than what AMD had, let's say the Ultra 2985 whatever K just came out, beat the 9800X3D, and they charged a little bit more for it, right? Like they're charging $600 versus the 9800X3D $480. That's the exact same situation that AMD's in with Nvidia. The 7000 series of AMD cards actually is very competent, very good price to performance. It's just that Nvidia is faster, and then they charge a price premium for it. It's kind of in the same vein. It's just that on the CPU side, AMD's competition fumbled the bag, whereas Nvidia is not doing that currently. And then Kay McCornell saying, "The 9800X3D was sold out on Newegg before 9 a.m. Eastern. The only place I could find one was on Amazon for $9.99. Damn scalpers." I saw that complaint from a lot of different people just talking about how the 9800X3D was sold out in minutes everywhere in the US, from Yaya indicating that. So it does appear like a lot of you tried to get it and weren't able to do it. Mine's back ordered. I don't have it coming in anytime soon as far as I'm aware, so unfortunate situation. But Bud the Cyborg saying 9800X3D has 20% performance gains in Flight Sim 2020, the first CPU to push 1% lows up to 60 FPS. This will be a night and day upgrade for anyone who enjoys racing sims or simulators, and open world games in general seem to benefit most from Zen 5X3D. I wasn't aware of that with Microsoft Flight Sim. That's great to hear. Finally a CPU that can handle that game that is now obsolete because Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 is coming out. Then the Big Merc saying, "Love that it's Cyberpunk 2077 RTX 2080 Ti limited edition card. Only one currently available on eBay right now is 2K. I'm aware of that. So this GPU right here is not actually the one that Nvidia gave away. I don't think they ever sold it. We did a short on it in case you want to check that out. We called it Yellow Cyberpunk PC. But the way we handled this was that there's a seller on eBay who sells the shrouds of the Cyberpunk setup. You know, I don't know if they're the ones who made it in the first place or whatever, but you can buy the shrouds separately, buy a Founders Edition 2080 Ti, and then merge them together, which is exactly what we have here. So that's why we have the Cyberpunk 2077 2080 Ti. Not because I got one of the originals, but because I made my own. And then we got Supa saying, "I really, really appreciate the green M&M on the shelf over there." That's an homage to Kyler. He really likes it. I do like a lot of the things that we're able to show off in this new set. We got a lot of cool knickknacks that have just kind of been sitting around the UFD tech office in various different places. Anybody who's been around since like 2020 when we used to do Hot News Live, or we filmed some UFD tech videos on that set. We had a lot of these on the shelf back then with those videos, but we've added a few. We've got NAG magazine, which is a South African gaming magazine that we got that physical edition when we were at Computex because we met some people who were covering Computex from NAG. We've got Caitlin's little onion painting that she did for me. Really love it. It's got Pizza John on it. Got the Astrobot controller. We've got the Stadia Founders Edition controller. We've got the Comic-Con exclusive Goku Super Saiyan Blue that I got at Comic-Con South Africa, or Comic-Con Africa, I think it's what it was called. Our Hot News 100,000 subscriber play button. A Hot News colored dumpster fire that one of our subscribers gave us for fan mail. Cannonball for the Cure mug. A Rocco Mama's mug that I had one of the employees give me when I was in South Africa last. Legion Go with the D-brand skin, like the way that thing looks. The UFD Tech 100,000. We have an Amazon Luna controller, the Starfield controller, the painting that Caitlin did for the most recent charity stream, just kind of from the pixel canvas. Obviously the green M&M. We have a scorpion that somebody sent in for fan mail as well. They sent in a spider, but Kyler refused to put it on the set. And then we got some Dragon Balls down there. But there's one more comment that I really, really wanted to go over, so I'm gonna do that now before we end this episode of Hot News. Brandon, the anime guy, saying, so the PlayStation 5 Pro is what the PlayStation 5 should have been. Got it. No, The PlayStation 5 at launch was a great deal, a great value, and great performance. I don't know, at $499 with the level of performance it was putting out at 10 teraflops, that was basically a 5700 XT, kind of more like a 6600 XT once it finally released. And to build a PC like that with a 57, that was a very expensive card when that came out in the first place. And then you also had a Zen 2 8-core CPU. You had all of that put together. You include a controller. It's a value that could not be matched in 2020 when the PS5 launched. The PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X, I did not believe that they were charging $499 for that because it was such a good price for the amount of performance that it delivers. So no, the PlayStation 5 Pro isn't what the PS5 should have been, because the PS5 was what it should have been when it launched. It was a great value, great performance, beat most people's gaming PCs when it launched in 2020. Obviously, a lot of people had issues with stock and all of that. That's a different conversation, but the performance and the price level of the PS5 was unmatched by PCs in 2020. Here in 2024, the PS5 Pro, slightly faster. It's not offering that same level of value. It's not that crazy good deal. It is faster than a PC that you could build for $699. If you include all of the various components of making sure that you have a motherboard that's Wi-Fi capable, you additionally include a controller in that price, you're getting a more complete package at $699 than an alternative PC, but obviously that's limiting you to console games. It's not as good of a deal as the PlayStation 5 was when it came out, but the tech that's being put into the PS5 didn't exist when the PS5 came out in 2020. The PS5 got like the latest generation hardware at the time. It's just that we're now almost half a decade from the launch of that, and there's new advancements that have been made in the graphics architecture that allow the PS5 Pro to have more advancements that were not around in 2020. And so I don't like that comment all that much, but I don't like ranting as much either. So I'm gonna be done with this episode of Hot News. We'll be back to cover more of the hottest tech news on Tuesday. We take Mondays off because that forces me to work on Sundays, and especially as we're anticipating the arrival of my next child, we're gonna take things a little easier here at UFD Tech. But see you next week.